All right, today we're going to learn how to add fractions with tenths and hundredths, and this will also include how to add decimals with tenths and hundredths. So here we go. Cheeseburger. Sarah paid 7/10 of the bill at a restaurant, when restaurants were still a thing. Jocelyn paid 12/100ths of the bill. How much did they pay in all? So we're not asking for money, it's just asking for a fractional amount. So here is the problem with this. I know that I cannot add fractions that have two different denominators, and I will show you why that's true. Well, we know that if I have half of a sandwich and then I eat the other half, it equals the entire sandwich, one whole, right? But if I just add my numerators and add my denominators, I'm going to get 2 as a numerator, 4 as a denominator, and 2/4 is the same thing as 1/2. It doesn't make any sense that 1/2 plus 1/2 is still 1/2. That's not how we add fractions. We have to get a common denominator. So the denominators have to be the same. Well, good thing I know that 7/10, I can change that to have hundredths, because I know that 7/10 is actually the same thing as 70 hundredths. And we know that because if we times by 10, if I do it to the bottom, I do it to the top, and I will actually get, let's go this way, I will get 70, 7 times 10 is 70, 10 times 10 is 100, and these are equivalent. 7/10 and 7/100, if you look at the picture, are actually exactly the same amount. So now if I have 70 hundredths and I add that to 12 hundredths, well, I can add 70 plus 12. That is not so hard to do. Let's get rid of this crazy fraction over here that doesn't make any sense. This one does, but let's get rid of it anyway so we have a little space. Nice and clean. So if I put that 70 hundredths and 12 hundredths together, I will have this new amount here. Let's get my pen back. It's going to equal 70 plus 12. 70 plus 12 is 82 hundredths. So back to that original question. If Sarah paid 7/10, and I can't even remember who the other friend was. Was it Evelyn? Jocelyn? One of them. Paid 12 hundredths. And altogether they paid 82 hundredths of the bill, and we'll assume a third friend paid the rest. But that's it. So I'm going to take my fraction that is not in hundredths, change it to half hundredths, and then I can add those together. So let's try another one. This time I have 3 little hundredths and 4/10. Well, we want that 4/10 to become a fraction that has a denominator of 100. So what I can do is, I know that I can times by 10 and get 100. And if I do it to the bottom, I also have to do it to the top. And I will get 40 hundredths. Well, let's see why this works. That 3 hundredths stays exactly the same. It already has a denominator of 100. I'm going to change that 4/10 into 40 hundredths. If you look at the picture, or the model, I should say, they're exactly the same amount. Just the other one was further partitioned into 10 parts. So now I have 40 hundredths plus 3 hundredths, and all I have to do is add the numerators, because the denominator is already going to be 100, and I get 43 hundredths. And we get a little model that pops up. Whoop, there it is. Put those 40 and 3 together, and I get 43 hundredths. Not too bad, right? So we're going to do the same thing with decimals. This first one I have 5/10, and the second one I have 5 hundredths. But don't let this confuse you. 5 hundredths is a lot less. That's if you take a picture or a model and cut it into 100 parts, and you're only using 5 tiny itty bitty parts of it, versus if you have a model that has 10 parts and you're using 5 of those parts. 5 out of 10 is a lot more than 5 out of 100. But I'm going to basically do the same thing. I'm going to take that 5/10 and turn it into hundredths. So, and really the shortcut is, put a 0 on it. Start off with 5/10. If I put that 0 on it, it becomes 50 hundredths. And those are exactly the same amount. So now I have 50 hundredths, which is the same as 5 tenths, plus those 5 little hundredths. So now all I gotta do is 50 plus 5. I'm gonna get 55 hundredths. So I get a 5 in there, my tenths place with the THS, 5 in my hundredths place, and there you go. Put them all together. If you look really carefully at this model, you can actually see that there's that original 5 tenths. There's the 5 little hundredths. You put them together and you get 55 hundredths. So basically, just remember that the real trick here, make it a different color, is you're going to take that decimal and literally just put a 0 on it. It changes it from that 5 tenths into 50 hundredths, which is exactly the same thing. All right, so what happens if you get a mix of fractions and decimals? Crazy time. But don't let it freak you out. We have 6 tenths here. Its equivalent friend is 60 hundredths. And let's talk about how we did that again if I have 6 tenths. And sometimes you'll see it like this and kids get a little confused, but it's just saying multiply both of them by 10. If you really want to get fancy, look at what this says. 10 tenths is 1 whole. So you're timesing it by itself and getting itself again, but just looking at it differently. So you're going to get that 60 hundredths, which is this one right here. Same thing. And now you're going to add that 60 hundredths to 35 hundredths. So what I tell people is, you know what? Either do it in fraction form or do it in decimal form, whatever makes you happy. They're the same thing. You got 60 hundredths plus 35 hundredths. You're going to get the same answer. They're just going to look different. One will be a fraction, one will be a decimal. If you need to on the side, you do your little addition. All right, 60 plus 35. You can mental math it. It should be 95. So I'm going to get 95 hundredths. I ran out of space. There we go. As a decimal, or 95 hundredths as a fraction. And here is my picture showing both 95 hundredths. Only 5 teeny little hundredths were not taken. All right, so remember, if you have tenths, you're going to turn them into hundredths. Go ahead and pause the video and try to solve these 3 problems. And then when you're done, unpause it and see if you got them right. All right, I'm going to go ahead and assume you paused it. So I have 8 hundredths plus 8 tenths. I'm going to turn this 8 tenths into hundredths. So I'm going to go ahead and keep this one the same. And I know if I times this by 10, I'm going to get 80 hundredths. The other shortcut is, put a 0 on the top, put a 0 on the bottom, and there you go. You got your fraction. 80 hundredths. So your answer should be 88 hundredths. You got it right? Yay! If you got it incorrect, I recommend go back to the beginning of the video and watch again. So let's try the second one with 3 tenths plus 42 hundredths. So one is a decimal, one is a fraction, but you know what? I'm not going to let that trick me. I know I can put a 0, and this now became 30 hundredths. I can change that to a fraction if that makes you feel better. 30 hundredths and 3 tenths are exactly the same amount, plus 42 hundredths. So all I gotta do is add 30 and 42, and I'm gonna get 72 hundredths. Conversely, if I wanted to do the decimal form, I would still make that 3 tenths become 30 hundredths, make the fraction 42 hundredths become 42 hundredths as a decimal, and I'm gonna get the exact same amount. You could, if you want to add it vertically, because that helps you to add. Oops, 34. Miss camera. Not 34. 30. I get the right color. Just make sure your decimal points are right under each other, because I'm always telling you guys line up your place values. So I got my ones all lined up. I got my tenths lined up and my hundredths lined up. You got to make sure they're all lined up. And 2 plus 0 is 2, 4 plus 3 is 7, decimal point just stays there, 0 plus 0 is still nothing. So we get the exact same answer. 72 hundredths. All right, now this bottom one, they're both decimals. I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, this one is 53 hundredths, this one is 3/10, but I know 3/10 and 30 hundredths are the exact same thing. So now all I got to do is add 30 hundredths and 53 hundredths. I'm going to go ahead and mental math that, and I should get 0 in the ones place. My tenths place, go away button. My tenths place will be an 8, and my hundredths place will be a 3. Where'd my decimal point go? There it is. And my answer is 83 hundredths. As a fraction, that would look like this. They are the same amount. Where do my decimal point keep going? There we go. All right, and that's it. There's some work for you to try this week. Give this a try, and if you are confused or need help, please let me know, and I will be happy to help you. So go try it.